On today's episode, I'll be talking with Emanuel Figueroa, a senior security market research analyst with IDC. We will be discussing who's responsible for protecting the general public against emerging AI threats that do not fit under any currently defined cybersecurity scopes. We will also talk about various AI risk management frameworks and what people should consider before deploying AI workloads in their enterprise environments. This is the Canadian Cybersecurity Podcast. I'm your host, Daemon. Today, I am joined with Emmanuel Figueroa. He is an IDC analyst in Latin America, and it is a pleasure for me to have him on this podcast today. Emmanuel, can you please tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got to where you are in the industry?
Thanks for having me, Daemon. I really appreciate, this spot. And first of all, I had to say that I'm actually part of a big company. I'm doing research. I'm in fact responsible for covering all Latin America security markets. And in fact, I'm part of a research team that covers, worldwide security markets. But prior to join this amazing company that's called IDC, I've been working in, some big force companies. I've been working in the data centers and, some, I would say, niche cybersecurity service providers. So, at the beginning of my career, I was working as a consultant. So, I have very good, background as a security practitioner. So, other than that, I believe that I'm always being considering myself like, these guys who try to, to resolve a lot of questions from customers, but also, that covers and trying to organize, this landscape of difficulties that, many companies are facing. So I like to think that I'm the organizing of disorder or some sort of thing like that. So thanks for having me. And, it's a pleasure.
Great. Thanks. So, Emmanuel, we met over at a recent BTEX conference in Toronto, and it was fantastic that I got a chance to meet you over there because I know you don't come up over here for very often. And I think that was actually your first time up in Canada. And the conference, you were one of the keynote speakers over there. There was a lot of really interesting topics that were going on in terms of cybersecurity, some developments in the industry, and some of the things that you need to be concerned about. So I want to ask you a question that is related to some of these advancements that are happening, and specifically in regards to artificial intelligence and some of the things that I'm starting to see in the wild. So, for instance, with artificial intelligence, there's an advancement in the multimodal attacks that are happening on organizations right now. So you can have live deep fake video avatars, you can do voice cloning of CEOs, and these types of things are used for virtual kidnappings, where you would actually have somebody that gets phoned up and then they have a clone, a child's voice and saying, "Help, I'm being kidnapped," and send money or something like that. Now, these are becoming more and more prevalent, but since they're targeting individuals, who do you think is actually responsible for protecting individuals and the general public? Would it be the government? Would it be law enforcement? Or would it be the companies that are associated with these people? Because ultimately, it may be companies that are being targeted through these sorts of attacks. So what's your take on it? Who do you think is responsible?
No, I really appreciate that question, and thanks for that. It's like, well, first of all, I personally believe that every state in the world have their main responsibility to protect their individuals, so as well as their human rights, for instance. So, but on the professional side, maybe we have to understand that not all the countries have to comply with this, and this in relation to the government. On the other hand, when we we understand about law enforcement, is that law enforcement could be constrained by privacy sometimes. So here's when we have to think about it. It's like maybe we have to find a new system in which we could serve or or law enforcement and government could serve as a sentinel just to protect their individuals based on their level of risk and responsibility, right? Just like it happens in companies. So, and I don't want to rest importance to the academia because something important is prevention. So we have to regularly have some training in how to avoid the main risk in the use of technology, but not always, and not all necessary, like all the use of technology, but at least the technology that represents more a risky scenario for companies like AI, because we are now in this era, it's more important. So, but if you ask to the C-suites, because I had a chance to talk with a lot of people, and what they are facing as their main challenges is that they face or try to prevent in the face of implementation of Gen AI, for instance. They will tell you that the security remains at first place when they are trying to implement this type of new technologies. So the reality comes that from defining new policies, so probably from the company's perspective, they have to reinforce or trying to define new policies that must cover how their users are taking responsibility for that use of new technologies like AI or AI type of technology. I would say it just depends. It's like, I know that we hate this type of answers because it's like, just depends. Yeah, I believe that the government has some level of responsibility, then the law enforcement also have some level of responsibility. But at the end, every single users have to be responsible or taking responsibility for the type or the use of technology and how to protect themselves. But also the companies have to provide some level of training, at least for the users, not only the responsibility that they has in terms of how they are managing the data, but also how to protect themselves from this type of threats. So this is what I've been thinking about.
I think that this sort of type of attack is going to start helping build a new industry that will pop up. And you can kind of see it with some of the consumer electronics that are out in the wild right now. For instance, with the Google Pixel phones, if you have a call coming in and you don't want to answer it, you actually get an agent that will pop up and start talking to the person automatically and saying that, say who you are, what your objective is, and then they'll actually have the choice to respond to the call or not. I think that's going to become more and more common, where everybody will have their own personal agent that represents them to the general public. So when somebody is trying to call a person or get a hold of a person, they'll need to go through that gatekeeper agent in order to do that. So that then you kind of have a scenario where you have agents talking to agents, and then most of the communication that may happen on the internet, whether it's through email or voice or so on, may actually just be agents talking to other agents, removing the person side from that. What's your take on that?
No, yeah, absolutely. I believe that. I would say that is like, well, we have been seeing a lot of rationalization between type of technologies, trying to protect every single side of the users. Something that we have been seeing that these MDM type of solutions, for instance, they are not being following at the same step as usual. And this is because I believe that more of the security industry are concentrated totally in enterprises. But I believe that there's a sort of companies who are trying to consolidate all this protection into a single type of agent, are trying to offer a single console for those type of purposes. And yeah, I'm trying to face every single situation but most for protecting executive type of communications, not necessarily for a common users. But yeah, I believe that the first step has been pushed by this bring your own device type of policies at the company. So I believe that these have been pushing a lot of interest, and I believe that it probably eventually we can see some protection specifically for mobiles that could be totally integrated into an IT stack ecosystem, not only at level of the edge or data center type of infrastructure, but also for covering specific identities on mobile type of use.
Any development on protection against smishing or anything like that, where you actually have texts going out over to people, like some way that you could have that go through a filtering mechanism where it can look at the context that may be associated with that and then determine whether or not it's a scam, that sort of thing, whether it's something that is malicious or dangerous, then flag that in some manner.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe that most of endpoint security type of solutions are trying to cover many of those aspects. I believe that, in fact, I've been seeing that many of those solutions are trying to offering a risk scoring based type of solutions in which could give the sense to a company, for instance, through a single console, the chance to see what is the level of risk that a single user represents for the company in terms of avoiding this shadow IT type of data and consuming, right? Yeah, I believe that many of endpoint security solutions are trying to cover that. At least they are, I believe that not necessarily the more common type of endpoint security solutions. They are more like mobile security solutions. And yeah, they are trying to cover this to encrypt, giving the capability to encrypt the communications between one call to another, trying to generate a single channel communication for protecting SMS and also for the calls. But I believe that this is more on executive mobile security platforms. But yeah, I've been seeing some sort of those, but many of those are offered for executive protection. Not only, not necessarily. I've been seeing a massive growth for common users.
I think that for executives, it definitely makes a lot of sense because they're the high value targets, but attackers can still come in and target other individuals within the company and then try to work their way in through pretexting and so on. So I think that over time, as the cost per user goes down, that it'll become widely adopted through various means. I also think that at some point, there may be a way to profile the risk of different types of users based on their activities or how they use their devices. So if, let's say, for instance, you have a company-issued device, and then the user is doing activity which may put them more at risk, then that may flag them as a more risky individual within the company. So it's not necessarily that they're doing anything malicious or bad, but they're putting themselves in situations that may be more risky than others.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe I can add something else, and is that besides the fact that there are a specific type of solutions for protecting those types of behaviors, we are also seeing that the growth in software as a service type of adoptions. And from that standpoint, I would say a good number of vendors are trying to offer protection to many collaboration type of solutions like this CASB or CDLP or DLP specifically for those type of users, just for avoiding these shadow IT type of behaviors. And yeah, but I believe that these cloud security posture management type of solutions also trying to cover many of those aspects, even when we are really seeing this gap in between enterprise types of solutions and also this more user behavior or this solution driving specifically for users, right?
Today's episode of the Canadian Cybersecurity Podcast is brought to you by Lighthouse Labs, the Canadian education company that teaches cybersecurity, coding, and data science through boot camps and courses. Lighthouse Labs is excited to announce that the 12-week full-time cybersecurity program is being offered at a highly reduced tuition of $3,500, down from $14,000, thanks to funding from Upskill Canada, powered by Palette Skills, and the Government of Canada. This is an opportunity for Canadians to break into the field of cybersecurity with no prior experience. It includes live online lectures, one-on-one mentorship, personalized career services there to help you get your first cybersecurity job, access to their network of over 4,000 Canadian employers, and paid internship projects. To learn more about the eligibility requirements, details on the program, and how to apply, visit lighthouselabs.ca/CCP for Canadian Cybersecurity Podcast. Don't miss out. That's lighthouselabs.ca/CCP.
Yeah, and that kind of leads into my next question, which is in regards to the approach of the strategy that organizations take to implement security frameworks in their environment. So whether an organization has decided to go down the path of CIS or NIST or ISO and use whatever framework fits their organization, as they start moving over to leveraging artificial intelligence and looking at the risks that are associated with that, and they're emerging all over the place. And it's a very new set of technologies that are really being leveraged in different ways than they have before, where artificial intelligence of the past, or what was called the GOF AI or good old-fashioned AI, it was very isolated, and it was back office stuff. It didn't really interact with the rest of the enterprise. But as organizations are moving to adopt generative AI and have it connect into every aspect of their environment and do coding, interact with clients, everything that you can imagine, there's new frameworks that are popping up to implement certain security controls around that. And like there's the NIST AI risk management framework, there's ISO 42001. So if an organization has already adopted a security framework, does it make sense for them to continue along that same path? And like if they have ISO, should they continue on with ISO 42001 for AI risk? Or does it make sense to have a mixed framework where you may have different types of frameworks overlaying in on top of each other in the enterprise?
No, yeah, I believe that. I can tell you that the main approach always comes along with the business. And I mean, usually we took like ISO 20000X because this is the door of entrance to establish new businesses with other companies, third parties. But once you comply, or you already notice that, yeah, maybe I'm in the level of maturity that I need to be, you understand that not necessarily you are, or your stack, it's infallible. And so you have to start thinking in how can I set some compensatory controls that can really help me to protect my assets, because now I comply with a sort of framework, but not necessarily, it's like you comply, but not necessarily are safe, right? So here's when you can start thinking in using this type of frameworks like NIST, because NIST is going to give you, or depending in where you are in this virtual circle of evolution, you had a chance to understand how to set new other frameworks depending on your needs, and that could cover specific type of needs like AI. For instance, I'm going to start using AI type of infrastructure, so maybe I need to understand how to put controls to protect the AI infrastructure, even when maybe I have to develop a specific policy for my users to how to consume AI. That probably is the second way of thinking this type of things. So I believe that this is a process in which you have to tailor your specific type of framework. So you have to pick the most interesting controls from every single framework, and maybe you have to build your own Frankenstein, because this is the way that we do in practice this type of things. You have to pick the most relevant controls and create your own thing, because the one who probably are more, or that could understand in a better way how to address every single need is your own company. So you have probably to, in the process, you have to face a lot of colleagues just for understanding if that control it's going to be able to but so, for saying something like it's viable, it's something that we can do, because it's not only about setting controls, it's setting controls, but also understanding that this could be possible. It's like that this could be reliable and could give really not necessarily a good sense of being secure, but also that could be functional, that could communicate with the business in terms of how we are going to control the data, how to be at a very good level of risk management, and also understanding that this could be possible without affecting any part of the business, right? So this is but at the end, what we can say, or what I can say about this, is that, yeah, I believe that mixing frameworks is still is a way of doing this. And yeah, I believe that sometimes maybe you can need some help in how to better approach to a very good set of these type of frameworks. And maybe, so if you don't know, it's like any of us understand every single framework, right? Like probably you can understand a couple, but maybe you can ask some colleagues or some other type of services for trying to understand how to better address these needs and how to gain all the power of these frameworks to have a better risk posture, and also to understand how can I take advantage of those type of solutions, or maybe trying to cut this long path in order to get the level of maturity I wanted through this type of services. So this is my approach. But this is like you are going to adopt any other framework depending on where you are in that curve of evolution or in maturity evolution.
Also, in terms of mixing different frameworks and the fact that many organizations now are dealing with other entities and supply chain that are global, ensuring that the global partners adhere to a certain set of security standards is important and becoming more and more so. So who do you think gets to dictate what standards get used in the supply chain process? Like if you have an organization that is defined as a supplier, they're adhering to local standards and some international standards as well, then they have a customer that has another set of standards, but doesn't necessarily adhere to the same ones. How do they overcome the gap in between those different standards?
I believe that's a good one. Well, first of all, what usually prevails the international standard. So first of all, you have to take the international standard and try to cover every single need in terms of your own company. And then probably you have to take a look into the local standards and trying to cover as much as possible. But at the end, when you have to start new businesses with other companies, you have to start making some type of mapping, like how my local framework or my local standards are going to communicate with my third party. For instance, I recall in my previous experience, I've been conducting a third-party security reviews in which we have this local standard that has some level of inheritance from the international standard, and we have to map how we are covering every single point from the requirement of our customer or our third-party partner. And yeah, if there is something that is outside our standard, maybe we have to add some other definitions. But I believe that this is the usual way. This is a way that already works. And I recall a very good project in which I've been part. And yeah, they decide, for instance, for privacy. And I don't know, this is not necessarily the main topic, but just for sharing a good example, is that we all understand that GDPR, it's a pretty good standpoint for privacy, right? So this customer decides to take GDPR and all the local standards from every single country in the world, and they elaborate a single standard that covers every single of the hard standards just to cover privacy as and to have a very good understanding and a consolidating and sharp and concise type of framework for covering every aspect of the business. I believe that this functions very well. So what also I can say is that, yeah, even a framework or a policy or a standard have to be flexible, right? So the more flexible you are, the more easy it will be to accomplish your goals in this area.
The last question that I have for you is, in the past few years, there's been a big push to go to the cloud. It was a cloud-first strategy. Everything's going to the cloud. Then after that, organizations started looking at the costs that are associated with that, the skill that's associated with that, the fact that it's actually very difficult in order to move applications to the cloud unless you actually do refactoring. Some things can't be refactored. So if you do a lift and shift, put in the cloud, then it doesn't make financial sense in order to do that because it's just putting it in a different data center and you're paying more for the exact same service. So what some organizations have been doing is doing a bit of repatriation of these workloads that went to the cloud, bring them back into the data center, and then you reanalyze the costs that are associated with that and the security that's associated with that. But on the other side of the spectrum, we have AI that comes into the picture, and the generative AI specifically, where if you want to make use of the best models that are out there, the largest ones, the GPT-4s, the Geminis, all that kind of stuff, that's all running in the cloud. So you have to start building the environment to leverage that cloud. So it's kind of an opposite of a trend that's happening in the industry. And what's your take on that? Should organizations have a dual strategy from that perspective, or should they start moving some things over to the cloud and some things back on-prem? How do they repatriate things and then move things into the cloud at the same time while maintaining security and governance for their entire environment?
Yeah, I believe that. And thanks for that. It's like something that I've been seeing is that repatriation, it's more a matter of understanding how the things are going to work in cloud. It's like, even now, it's, at least for me, it's stunning to see how many organizations are still understanding this shared responsibility model between an hyperscaler and their own company, and how they are going to consume the data. This microsegmentation type of technology is something that they are not necessarily familiar, even when they have already a lot of experience about how to create new applications and how to use Kubernetes or this type of solutions. So I believe they were trying to use the technology as they were accustomed to, like premise, right? You cannot imagine right now, for instance, to have a CM on premises and have all your resources in cloud trying to sending data out of the cloud, right? Because it's going to raise your expenditure. But once they understand the capabilities of cloud and how they can leverage from those, I would say those type of microsegmentations and like microservices type of solutions, they understand that there is a level of complexity that they have to face, and they have to start by understanding this new paradigm shift between cloud and on-premise. And then now that they are starting to implementing these AI type of projects, they're understanding that cloud would be the most proliferant and the most friendly ally in terms of how to adopt technology. So they understand that they have to comply also with the use of AI as any other type of technology. So the more a company understands this, how to consume the cloud and how it works and how to communicate between all their ecosystem, they are starting to understanding that cloud strategy is part of their new initiatives, right? Like AI, for instance. And I believe one of the most interesting topics about AI has to be related to how all this type of Gen AI type of technologies are going to cover also on-prem type of solutions and also cloud type of solutions. And the more they are open, like an open model, they are going to have more relevance to their own security. I believe that there's a lot of misunderstanding from customers in terms of how they are acquiring new technology like these new projects from Gen AI, but also how they are consuming the data and where the data has its residency, right? So it should depend on the situation, but I believe that most of them are going to accelerate their consuming in cloud, because you cannot think that your business is going to grow without the use of cloud. So when you have a very huge project using specifically AI for growing your business, you're going to need to have a cloud strategy. And I've been seeing that most of the first early adopters are trying to cover both aspects of their evolution. It's like you cannot think having just on-prem type of solutions. You have to think that cloud is going to give you the speed, flexibility, elasticity that you will need for growing your business at the time that it's needed, despite the fact that you are adopting or not AI. This is one of my approaches.
I think that most organizations, regardless of the size or what they actually do, will need to have a hybrid cloud or a multi-hybrid cloud strategy, and then leverage the resources as they need them, whether it's infrastructure as a service, SaaS, or functions as a service, and then determine what makes them the most sense. But for organizations that have traditional legacy infrastructure on-prem, and they want to leverage some of these new generative AI capabilities in the cloud. What do you think they should do before they do that? Should they implement an AI security policy? Should they have a cloud security policy? Should they approach things from another holistic manner? What steps should they take before they start adopting generative AI?
Thanks for that. Personally, I think that they have to understand the use case of Gen AI, because it's like a couple of weeks ago, I've been in RSA in San Francisco, and I recall that we have a lot of conferences with regards AI and how this is going to resolve a lot of issues. But I believe that the thing that many companies have to take in account is, what is the issue? What is the main issue that it's going to resolve? If Gen AI is not necessarily going to resolve a specific use case, maybe we have to rethink if it's time to start with some kind of project like that. So I believe that we like to say that in Gen AI, there are two different type of use cases. The one related to automate the mundane task of the analyst, and the other type of use cases that is related more to leveling the security professionals' capabilities. So they have to understand what is the part of the business that this Gen AI is going to resolve, and what are the security outcomes that they are going to obtain from this type of projects. And then, yeah, absolutely. I believe that this is going to provide a lot of optimization and automation into the company, and not only to create a new role as a prompt engineer and just sending messages through this type of tools. I believe that have to be related to the business goal. I don't mean to be simplistic, right? But if companies start to adopt a technology that they are not necessarily understanding what is going to solve, it's like to buy a car for your garage. So you are not going to exploit all the capabilities from that type of solutions. So this is something important. And then, yeah, understanding how this is going to converse, and because Gen AI, it's about data, and you need to understand that the level of data that you are going to need for generating all the value depends totally in what is your level of preparation, right? So if you are not at a standpoint in which you can exploit very huge amount of data, probably you need to start by creating a data lake or a huge repository of data that could go into this type of solutions. So this is something I've been thinking, and I believe that, yeah, in Gen AI, all it's about data, right? So this is something interesting.
Yeah, and I was reading about that recently, that when organizations start going through the process of implementing generative AI and retrieval augmented generation, which basically points to internal documents that they may have in their environment, the biggest risk is actually things that may be latent vulnerabilities or risks or exposures that they have in their environment that are actually brought to light through this process. So things such as poor permissioning of the environment, things that are exposed that aren't supposed to be exposed, that sort of thing. So as organizations start going through this process of incorporating internal data into generative AI, I think it's a good opportunity to do a full review of their entire environment to see where there are gaps in their security posture, in their strategy, before they start exposing those to a greater risk that they could through generative AI.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm totally agree with that. It's like, for instance, when a CISO practice, when you come to a new company, right? Like you have first to assess your security posture before starting working in what are the things that you have to improve and what are the things that probably you have to take over on. So yeah, absolutely agree.
Yeah, so thank you very much for coming on the podcast. Really appreciate it. Fantastic conversation that we've had so far. Before we sign off on this episode, do you have any final thoughts that you would want to provide to our listeners?
Well, first of all, I always try to share with a lot of companies that, yeah, technology, absolutely, it's going to help us in resolving all the issues, but we have to understand the benefits that the solution is going to give us. And the benefits, by the benefits, I understand how this solution is going to cover my concerns or my challenges in the company, now how this is going to converse with that. But also we have to understand that despite the fact of this Gen AI type of solutions. And we understand that in the market, like AI and ML has a lot of years before that has been putting in practice with a lot of vendors. So we have to be totally clear in how those type of solutions are going to resolve our own needs and what are the security outcomes that are going to generate for us to achieve our business requirements. And also something that could be interesting is, we have to have clear that every single solution needs to help us to show the board of directors and all these bigger tables how to achieve a better risk perspective. It's not all about the data. If risk is not measured, if risk is not pretty clear from our standpoint, probably we're going to have some issues in how to gain the backup from the board of directors. We have to see the benefit. We have to see how this type of solutions are going to scale with my business, but also how it's going to generate the security outcomes we are expecting from them. This is something I like to share with your audience. And thank you very much for having me here. It's an amazing conversation, and hopefully in the future we can have another one.
Do you have any contact information that you'd like to share with anybody who would want to get in touch with you, or websites or anything like that?
No, you can find me as Emmanuel Figueroa through LinkedIn. If you want to take a look into the reports that we have preparing, you can find me as Emmanuel Figueroa at idc.com. So please feel free to take a look.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yo, welcome to the show. It's the Canadian Cybersecurity Podcast with your host, Daemon, moving fast. Got Emmanuel Figueroa in the guest seat today, talking AI and security in a great white north fast. Frameworks and governance, keeping systems clean, share responsibility. It's the team's main scene. Generative AI's rising, but we're still in sight. Without safeguards in place, we're not sleeping at night.